What about where we did not do well? You know, as I tell people, especially young people, I like to remember the exams I did not pass. And there are some I did, you know. Most people obviously understand I passed the UPSC. Yeah. But I can tell you, I sat for the IIT entrance exam and I didn't pass. You know. And in fact, I had I must share with you a very interesting experience recently. I was at an event where someone went to the great trouble of getting my school report. You know, they actually got my school report, got a copy of it, had a nice, presentable version of it. And they were under the mistaken impression that it would be a good report. So here I am, and they introduce me and they say, you know, we have your school report. And then they flip page 1. And, you know, it wasn't that great. They saved me the embarrassment. So they read the final teacher's remark saying the boy has great potential if he works a little bit harder. I mean, that's what the teachers say when you don't do that well. So I remember that, and I remind, you know, everybody around me saying, look, all of us somewhere, I'm sure there were some people who were so talented very early on that anything they did, anything they touched turned out to be wonderful. But I think for the vast majority of us, you know, there were some things which worked, some things which didn't. There were days you did well, there were days you didn't, there were some things you passed, there were some which you didn't. And I think that's important to remember in life, because that is very much, I think, part of that attitude towards life, that sense that, you know, you should not be down, you should not feel sort of bad at any setback, and you should be optimistic about the continuous self-improvement which all of us practice and certainly aspire to. Now, as an external affairs minister, and as you can see, an extreme case of stress, there were some takeaways I had. I read the book, I absorbed the book, and I asked myself, okay, so what is it in my own sphere, in my own domain, I experienced, and try to put it down in a Shiv Khera-esque way to communicate to people. And for me, when I look at my own particular responsibility now, but even earlier as a diplomat, I have over a period of time tried to aspire to the 3 C's of success. One, of course, is contact. The more people you know, the greater your reach. The second C is chemistry, which is that if you get along with people, they are more likely to do things for you than if you don't. And the third is credibility, that if you are known to be good on your word, you know, when you say things, when you make promises, when you tell people what can be done or what cannot be done, people take you seriously. A lot of people would do things, they would do things first if you know them. 2, they will certainly do things if they like you, therefore the chemistry. But most of all, they are likely to respond to you if they believe you are straight, you are upfront, what you say is what you get. I think that is a very, very crucial attribute, certainly in the world of diplomacy. My second takeaway, and there were elements of it in the book, I would call it today, because you know we are in the era of art of the deal, I would call it the art of parachuting, which is you drop into a place and get to know as quickly as you can what it is all about. And that's what most, you know, certainly in diplomacy, in the foreign service, as a foreign minister, that's what a lot of us do. You have, a little time to get your bearings, understand where you have landed, try to learn what everybody around you is about. And you can say in a way it's a kind of Atmanirbharta, that you are carrying all those skills which you get by reading Shiv Khera, and then you drop down in a place and you apply those skills as quickly as you can. The third.
And now, our performer of the year, who will be promoted to Vice President, Gautam Anand.
Not now, sir. अभी क्या? रहने देते हैं. Not now.
बेवकूफी है ना. खुद के हेल्थ की टेस्टिंग को नॉट नाउ बोलना भी उतनी ही बेवकूफी है. तो नॉट नाउ भूल जाओ और टाटा 1mg लैब्स को बोलो यस नाउ.
That's the reality of the situation. So what do you do? And that's what we were talking as we walked into this building. And I said, look, my most honest answer is you normalize the abnormal. You build your life around it. You de-stress it by making it, in a way, your part of your life. So if your phone rings at 2 o'clock, you answer it and go back to sleep, and get up at 6 or 7 and try to remember and hope what you said was right. So how do, you actually, because there are people, there are situations, sometimes there are professions, sometimes it's your mindset, you take on responsibility. There are people who take the weight of an organization or the responsibilities of a family or a larger grouping on themselves. So they take stress away from others onto themselves. And such people do carry chronic stress with them. So you carry chronic stress really by in a way, building your life around it. I wouldn't recommend it to other people if you don't have to do it. But that's the way to do it. And of course, a lot of the other points which Shiv Khera makes about being optimistic, about staying the course, about developing the fortitude for tough times. I think these are really very important attributes. But for me, the 6 crucial takeaways from this book, which I certainly have sought to build into my lifestyle. One is that you plan for the unplanned. 2, you invest in relationships. 3, and this is not just a political statement, it is also a political statement, but it is also a personal statement, no appeasement. 4, equally important, I think in politics also, no toxicity. 5, respect time. And 6, most important, get a good night's sleep. So these are 6 straight chapters out of your book, which I think are really very sensible advice offered to people who may be very stressed or may not be stressed. You won't be stressed certainly if you follow all these things. Now let me conclude with a few words about my own experience, 41 years in diplomacy as a professional, 6 years now running as a minister. So what has been the MEA's experience which I have seen in terms of stress management? Okay. And I'd like to share some recent experiences. One, I would say, and I'm looking at some very distinguished people in front of me, the discipline of duty. When you believe something is your duty and you are trained to do that, and there is a discipline which comes out of it, you are not stressed because 1, you believe you should be doing it, and 2, you are habituated, you are trained to do it. So when I think of the power of this habit, of this discipline, my most, I would say, insightful, perceptive experience in all these years that I'm talking about was actually the period of the COVID. It was the period of the COVID because most people started work from home. In the Ministry of External Affairs, because we were trying to get back Indians from all over the world and deal with them, we actually moved from a morning to evening routine, from that into a 3-shift routine, which was actually more people came to work every day. So it was, for us, instead of work from home, it was go home occasionally. But we dealt with the COVID by actually moving to a 3-shift ministries, having a 24-hour operational culture to, whether it was somebody who was stuck, whether it was an oxygen shipment that was needed, whether it was a ventilator requirement somewhere else. But I saw at that time what discipline does, what a sense of duty does, that to ask people who are afraid, as all of us reasonably were, people were afraid to come out of their homes. You are asking them every day to come to office, to sit with a group of other people, to do this day after day, and they did it. The second was, I saw what motivation could do. When the COVID started, you all remember that initial, that first focus on Wuhan, the city in China. Now, we had young diplomats who actually volunteered to go into Wuhan to get people out. That is the power of motivation. That for them, they could have stayed away, they could have ducked. They knew somebody had to go in with a plane, and they were willing to do that. So what you can get people, if there is personal motivation, organizational motivation, if that is the culture, people will be willing to go the extra mile and more to get things done. The third lesson I saw was one of no risks, no rewards. Which, by the way, no risks means you have to take on some stress. And I've seen this on a kind of a transactional basis regularly, but there were some very difficult situations. When we did evacuations in Ukraine, or when we did one in Sudan, there were people working in the embassy, there were people working in the foreign ministry who took personal risks. Either they were there in that country. In the case of Sudan, for example, I had to literally shout at my ambassador to get him out, because he was unwilling to come out till everybody was out. And in the case of Ukraine, I had actually people volunteering to go to the most difficult spot, which was at that time the most chaotic place in the fighting, when they went there, actually the Ukrainians thought they were crazy, because everybody else was coming out of that zone of fighting, and these two gentlemen were going into the zone of fighting. So, but we could not have got the job done if we had not taken the risk. So, as I say, at the end of the day, no risk, no reward. Then, this point, being there at the right time. Today, recently we had a summit of Caribbean countries, Caribbean islands. Prime Minister had gone to Guyana. So all the Caribbean, I think 15 countries there. Every one of them began by thanking Prime Minister Modi for the vaccines. Not just because they got the vaccines, because that being there at the right time, that when the rest of the world, when there were countries next to them, there were big developed countries who had cornered 8 times the vaccine of their population. And next to them, or close by, were islands who needed 20,000 doses, 30,000 doses, and they didn't get them. So when you do something for somebody at the right time, it could be small, it could be big, but the timing is crucial. I mean, I've dealt with Sri Lanka for a very, very long time. I don't know if any of you in the last 2 years have had an opportunity to go there. The average Sri Lankan remembers this, that when their economy was falling off a cliff, we stepped up, most importantly at the right time. That our aid, which was huge, $4 billion plus, but more importantly, it came at the right time. Because the IMF was still negotiating, others were saying, okay, we will look at it. As you know, the fall of their economy was checked because we came in at the right time. Then I would say it's important to move with the times. You know, we see this every day in governance. This, for example, is an aspirational India. It's a more prosperous India. People want to travel more. When I joined the government, you know, getting a passport seemed like a privilege. Okay. In fact, in the colony I lived, most people said, okay, somebody has joined the foreign ministry, इसका मतलब है कि हमारा passport का काम हो जाएगा. This was the community value of this. But you can't do that anymore. You know, the average Indian is not willing to put up with stuff which they did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, even 10 years ago. So how do you move with the times? That too, I think, is important. And we have tried to do that, you know. I sometimes read about rankings. You know, there's a passport ranking. Now, most rankings, I mean, have a, it's like a, you know, setting hota hai. Huh? So it's fixed for some purpose, okay? So they will tell you things like, you know, we see how many countries you can go without a visa. That's one metric, okay? Now, obviously, you know, we are a large country, so a lot of other countries feel, okay, maybe these guys, it's better to have a visa system. But look at the kind of metrics which today are so important. Which other country rescues its people in places like Ukraine or Sudan or Israel or Afghanistan? Because in Ukraine, I can tell you, even the Western countries told the people, sorry guys, I mean, the war has started, now you're on your own, we told you to leave, and there's nothing we can do. So, today, you know, we have a system for anybody whose passport is lost, anybody who has a grievance, that the wages are not paid, somebody unfortunately passes away abroad. You know, how many countries bring back the bodies of their nationals who pass away abroad? How many countries have homes for, you know, the people who go out to work professionally, whose remittances are so helpful for our economy? You know, we have today, we even support people in fighting court cases abroad if they don't have the means to do that. But this is today the expectation. You know, this is the aspirational India. People are going out into the global workplace, but they expect to be supported by the government and by the country. So it's important to move with times, that the need to adapt, the need to change, you know, I mean, life is less stressful, more efficient, if actually, as a governance outlook, also, we accept, and that's really one of the big changes to my mind in the last 10 years, that the many things which would have been accepted before, today we need to make that effort and bring up the system to speed, because today that is the legitimate expectation of the average citizen. Two other takeaways I had. One, the importance of trust and teamwork. And to trust, to have a team, you must trust. And to trust, you must know the people. So anybody who heads an organization, if you do not know actually means personally know enough people, it's very difficult to build that culture of trust, in which case your team will always be suboptimal. So it's important to take interest in people. Sometimes, in this era we need to say it, because often we look at the screen and we don't have enough human relationships. So I say this, that, era of technology, know your colleagues, know your employees, know your superiors, know everybody around you, take an interest in their lives. This is actually a huge asset if you are heading an organization. And finally, of course, know what you don't know. Because all of us like to give gyan. I'm part of talk about a book only if you read it. But know what you don't know. But equally important, know somebody who does. So go find somebody smarter than you, better informed than you. You cannot know everything, but if you know Mr. Shiv Khera, you got a great start in life. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful address and sharing your key takeaways from the book and illustrating them with your own real-life examples. Thank you so much, and we are really glad that you took out the time from your busy schedule to go through the book. It means a lot for us. Thank you, sir. May I now please welcome Mr. Khera to talk about his new book. Let's all hear from him. A huge round of applause for Mr. Khera, the man of the evening.
I'll talk from here. Yeah. My, what a act to follow. What a act to follow. Sir, first of all, I'm indeed grateful that you are here. With Republic Day, day after tomorrow, the number of dignitaries from all over the world who are right there, and the main person is missing. Can you imagine he's taken the time out? Sir, I'm so grateful to you. With all that many people. But I have to say that you've taken 7.5 minutes of my time too. So you need to give me that additional time right here. So I'll be grateful to you, sir. Folks, just on the lighter side, generally, people celebrate with cocktails, and then especially the books, because books give knowledge and education, and when you have alcohol, you get high. So, and if you read, you get educated. Somebody said, if you drink and read, you'll be highly educated. So, that's one side of the picture. But you did talk about a little bit relationship. A lady filed for a divorce after 30 years, and the judge said, 30 years later you woke up? What's the matter? Grounds are, he doesn't say anymore, I love you. So the judge asked the man, what's the matter? Why don't you say I love you anymore? So man replied, he said, look, when I got married, I told her I love you. And if I ever change my mind, I'll let you know. And I haven't changed my mind. So what's the big deal? Well, anyway, sir, grateful to you. And we were talking about who knows more how to handle stress. You literally remind me of James Bond. Why do I say that? Because you are permanently on the hot seat. Are you with me? You are permanently on the hot seat. And this James Bond always remains cool. Not cold. I repeat, not cold, but cool. See, he's permanently on the hot seat. Hot seat, cool head. Hot seat, cool head. Hot seat, hot head, you're dead. Folks, one arm America is pulling, the other arm Russia is pulling, and China is pulling all his legs. But somehow he managed to maintain his cool. Folks, a lot to learn from you. A lot to learn from you. Indeed, grateful to you, sir. You did talk about a few things in terms of connections and contacts. I address many business schools, different parts of the world. And today in business schools, in MBA schools, they're teaching, join Chamber of Commerce's, join the Rotaries, join the Lions, build contacts. And they teach them network. And you ask them, what are you doing? I'm networking. Why are you networking? I'm building contact. Why are you building contact? Someday he could be useful. Someday he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's a cop, he's a politician, he's a mafia. Who knows, someday he could be useful. Build contacts. Folks, they do not teach them there is a world of a difference between building contacts versus building relationships. Are you with me? Folks, there is a huge difference, and I need to learn from Mr. Vivek Tanka. He's got friends going back 30, 40, 50 years. Amazing, and they are all there. Good time, bad time, they are there. He's there. See, there is so much to learn. This is what we are talking of, building relationships versus building contacts. You see, people who only build contacts that someday he could be useful, usefulness goes, friendship also goes. See, these are parasites, selfish people, they're only takers in life. You can never work long term with people who are only takers in life. Now, is this the reason why we form friendship, that someday he could be useful? That's absolutely rubbish. That is total selfishness. Folks, come back to, see, once I came in, we have an office in Singapore, I came from dinner, and a man met me in the lobby, and he asked me, Mr. Kira, you came from dinner? I said, yes, sir. You met some people this evening? I said, yes, sir. And then he said, I hope you met some people who could be useful to you. Now, I felt like giving a piece of my mind in something else. See, his objective of meeting people was usefulness. What he could extract out of them. Folks, not realizing that usefulness is a byproduct of relationship. Are you with me? Usefulness is a byproduct of relationship. And people who have strong relationships, there was a study done at Harvard University, which I have mentioned in my book. They live healthier life, longer life, happier life, because they are relationships. And people who don't have good relationships, they are emotionally bankrupt. And people who are emotionally bankrupt use the word trust. How can you trust them? How can you trust them? You see, people who are emotionally bankrupt, they're whimsical people, moody people. The same person is all sugar and honey to you today, and the same person ought to catch your throat tomorrow. There is imbalance. You can't trust people like that, can you? So eventually it comes down to emotional stability. And of course, folks, we talked about stress in my book. The reason why I put this book out at this time, in the last 2 decades, the depression rate and stress has gone up by 400%. And economic cost is in excess of $1 trillion per year. $1 trillion. And in the US, I have statistics there. I don't have the statistics in India. But in the US, it is costing in excess of $300 billion, and 1 million man days are lost per year. And 83% of people who go to work, they're talking of stress-related problems. And medical doctors I've talked to, and some of them are here, They say 60, 70, even 80% of the sicknesses are psychosomatic. Psycho means mind, somatic means soma is the body. Sickness manifests in our body because of mind, which is basically nothing else but stress. And suicide rates, depression rates have gone up today drastically. So it is badly needed today. Needed yesterday too. But you see, because of that, relationships are breaking down like you would not even believe. Now, important thing is, I did some research which said about 200 years ago, most marriages in the Western world were love marriages. They were arranged marriages. They were not love marriages. That means the marriage came first and the love came after. Granted, they might have had problems, but by and large, they still lasted. And today in the Western world, pretty much most marriages are so-called love marriages, and they have 60, 70, 80, and some places even 90% divorce rate. That means love came first and the marriage came later. So they have devised a midway which is called, let us live together without making no commitment. Let us live together, and they live together, and you ask them the purpose behind is, what is the purpose behind this? We're checking compatibility. For 5 years they keep checking compatibility every day. And then they get married, 2.5 hours later they have a divorce. What did you check? Folks, have you ever seen a compatible couple in this world? Show me one. Look at your parents. Are they compatible? Folks, there is no and compatibility is not what keeps a relationship going. It is our ability to live with the incompatibilities in life that keeps a relationship going. You know something? Compatibility is a word which is invented by divorce attorneys. They have invented this word. Nobody else. Compatibility. Where compatibility? What compatibility are we talking about? So anyway, eventually it comes down to building relationships. Now, folks, in the interest of time, I know you have to leave. I just want to cover two important things. In fact, three, sir. Three. Okay, because you had six and I'm only three. Okay, folks, quickly, one major cause of stress today is there are people who are equating success with only money. Only money. Folks, major cause of stress. And there are people who keep looking at the kind of clothes you wear, kind of jewelry you have, the kind of car you drive, kind of home you live, because they judge your self-worth by your net worth. Are you with me? They judge your self-worth by your net worth. Not only do they judge your self-worth by your net worth, but they also judge their own self-worth by their own net worth. No wonder they keep making comparisons. How come they have this, I don't have it? How come they have this, I don't have it? How come they have this, I don't have it? And to make comparisons, again, because if I don't have this, I am inferior. That's why they put on a false mask. And people buy things today. They buy things they don't need with the money that they don't have to impress the people who don't mean anything in life anyway. And that is really what is going on today. Not realizing, as somebody said, cash is king. Cash is king. Money in the bank is more valuable than your designer clothes in your wallet, in your closet. Are you with me? Money in the bank is much more valuable than your designer clothes in your closet. People have to understand what reality is all about. And now that was one of the things. Now two more. One is to handle stress in life, in fact problems in life, it all depends on our resources to handle them. Supposing you are taking a walk in the forest and a lion comes in front of you. Who has a problem? You have a problem. But supposing miraculously you have AK-47 in your hand, now who has a problem? Lion has a problem. So a lot depends on your own resources, how you handle it. So somebody said to handle problems in life, seek help. Don't fight your battles alone. I repeat, seek help. Do not fight your battles alone. There was a young boy who told his dad, he said, Dad, there's a rock in the ground there. I'm going to move it. I'm going there. So he went there, and he came back, and father asked, son, were you able to move the rock? He said, no, Dad, but I'm going to go back again. Next day again he went, and he came back, and Dad asked, son, were you able to move the rock? He said, no, Dad, but I'm going to go back again. See, Anup, here, third day, the father quietly went behind this kid, and he saw his son was pushing hard, and he was sweating all the way. And Dad quietly said, son, are you using all your strength? And the boy said, yeah, Dad, look at this. I'm using all my strength. And father said, son, you never asked me, am I not part of your strength? Are you with me? You never asked me, am I not part of your strength? Don't fight your battles alone. Stop fighting your battles alone. Yes, we all want to be independent and fight it. But keep in mind, use your strength. Family is your strength. Build your strength. This is what emotional equation is all about. And that we can handle stress. Keep in mind, stress is unavoidable. It is normal. It is natural. And by the way, stress cannot be delegated. Rajiv, I can't give you my stress. Nor can you. We have to handle our own stress by ourselves. It cannot be delegated. So there are some things we need to learn. And this is what we are talking of in this book. AK-47, that man could handle the tiger or the lion. This book is talking about tools, how to handle stress as we go along. And one more that I'd like to share on the last one. Personally, I met a gentleman, I think almost 45 years ago. His name was Dr. Robert Elliott. You might have heard the story, the last one. Robert Elliott, he was a cardiologist and a cardiologist of the cardiologist. He was teaching cardiology all over the world. And he was going from the limousine to the aircraft, to the limousine to the aircraft, to the limousine to the aircraft. And he was teaching cardiology. And this man was in mid-45, somewhere about 40 years. One day, in the morning, he arrived at a hospital. He was to address a few hundred medical doctors. But all of a sudden, he felt discomfort in his own chest. Being a cardiologist, right away he recognized something was wrong. He went to the nurse's station and said, check me out. And they checked him out and they found he was having a heart attack. Needless to say, he couldn't address. Immediately he was taken to the ER and given treatment right there. After he recovered, he's written a book called It's All Small Stuff. You see, after he recovered, he wrote a book, Is It Worth Dying For? And the book ends with this. He said, the heart attack was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. The heart attack was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. He said, what that heart attack taught me is, till then, I was on the fast lane. I was practicing everything against what I was telling them. I was telling them to slow down, and I was on the fast lane. And he said, I had a lovely wife. Didn't spend time with her. I've got two lovely daughters. They were sleeping when I left home. They were sleeping when I came home. I never saw them grow up in my life. And besides, I never took time to smell the roses outside my window. He said, the heart attack was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And he said, from there I learned two things. One, don't sweat the small stuff. I repeat, two lessons I learned. One, don't sweat the small stuff. And number two, it's all small stuff. It's all small stuff. But then, I have closed my book by saying, social responsibility and serving to humanity is not small stuff. We have to serve. It is our obligation. And I have concluded that book with that. And Rajiv, I want to thank you. Known you for so many years. And friend Dheeraj, Pankaj. And Pankaj is right here. He's attended my program. He's a student of mine. And Kiran, what an honor. And I don't know, Vaibhav, such a pleasure to have you. Dheeraj Gupta right here. I don't know, I mean, how many names I want to take. But I do want to invite my wife and my daughter to hand over to you a little hamper of my book. And of course, Smita, ma'am, I'm so honored that you are here. I'm grateful. And then we will have a little chat between you and me. And, but can I get the hamper, please? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Khera, for that powerful address and reminding us to take charge of our lives and writing this book, which will help us all do so.
Sorry.
Thank you again, Mr. Khera. Can we all please have a huge round of applause for Mr. Khera?
That's okay. No. Yes, please. We'll unveil the book now.
And now let's take a look at how the book was made. It's a very short, quick video. Can we please play the video? And now it's time to officially unveil the book that is sure to change millions of lives. Live while you're alive. And to do that, I would like to invite our distinguished guest, Mrs. Kiran Khera.
That's my wife.
Mrs. Bhavna Vadera.
And she has edited the entire book.
Mr. Rajiv Berry.
Bhavna has come for the event.
Mr. Vivek Tankha. Sir, can we please have you on the stage? Dr. Mehta. Mr. Pankaj Singh. Dr. Kiran Bedi. Mr. Dheeraj Gupta. Mr. D.S. Mishra.
Weber Dengue. Weber Dengue. Weber Dengue.
Mr. Vaibhav Denge, Ms. Smrita Prakash. Do we have Mr. Kartikeya Sharma here?
No, he's not here.
No? Mr. Naresh Bansal?
He's not here.
Can we please have the book on stage now for unveiling? And can we have copies of the book presented to all our distinguished guests?
Yes, we wait.
Dr. Jaishankar, please do the honors and unveil the book,
थोड़ा सर आप
along with all our distinguished guests.
do this or that or both? No.
I request all our guests to please hold the book for a minute and so that we can take a nice, beautiful picture.
Should I, Rajiv, should I put this down? Because it's blocking everybody's here. It's good. Can we do this? After all this, next week's time I'll give it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Jaishankar, for making this a truly momentous launch. May I now request Ms. Bhavna Vidara to present a token of appreciation to the Honorable External Affairs Minister.
We have a hamper, all our books and everything. Thank you very much.
रिपब्लिक डे का जश्न मनाएं इलेक्ट्रॉनिक स्मार्ट के साथ। वाइड रेंज, अनबीटेबल प्राइजेस और अट्रैक्टिव कैशबैक का फायदा उठाइए। नो कॉस्ट EMI के साथ हो हर परचेज और भी आसान। तो आज ही विजिट करें इलेक्ट्रॉनिक स्मार्ट स्टोर और अपना रिपब्लिक डे बनाएं और भी खास।
Majo's photo.
Unique, and I am very confident. To me, it's no surprise that even before it officially gets released, it's already up there in the charts. I have one rule, which is never talk about a book you haven't read. So I think somewhere it should be added to his rules as well. So I had the pleasure of actually reading the book on my flight back from Washington, and I totally agree with Mr. Rajiv Bedi. It's a very easy read. It's very quintessentially Shivkera. You know, you get the ideas, impacts you, you remember the key points, and most important, you absorb the messages of the book. Now, before I share my own thoughts, let me start with a mild note of difference. The book, as you know, is called Live While You Are Alive, and it begins by saying we only live once. I actually prefer the Ian Fleming version, which is we live twice. You only live twice. And you only live twice, if you all remember the song, once for yourself and once for your dreams. So what I want to say up front is that living for your dreams. That is really for all of us, There is no human being who does not have an aspiration. And anybody with an aspiration, for them, self-improvement and self-help are the natural drivers of how to get more out of life and how to do better in life. And that, in many ways, is actually what this book is about, though it focuses on the stress aspect, and I'm delighted to be taken as a guinea pig of the stress management business. Now, my second point, of course, is that life is unpredictable to a considerable degree. That is where much of the stress comes from. But again, one of the messages in the book is that if you develop the confidence, it can be navigated, it can be managed. And the most important is that we all must try our best. That, there's no guarantee that we will be successful in everything we do, but there could be a guarantee if you motivate yourself that you will do your best. And then beyond that, it is in the hands of higher forces. Now, to do that, to do your best, you have to take the risks. You have, as Mr. Khera says, you have to be at peace with yourself. You have to accept that mistakes will happen. But the key is not to fear the mistakes, but to recover from the mistakes, to rectify the mistakes. And, prepare your best, but be ready for surprises. I mean, that, in a sense, is what is the life outlook which I could, I would say this was the nichod of the book. And I think that life outlook really for all of us in whatever we do, personally, professionally, organizationally, it is attitude which helps us develop the professional and life skills that we need. I would also add to that, no one is perfect. Most of us, it's natural when you go out, somebody reads your CV, people normally talk about your success, or even you talk about your own success. You always tell people what you did. It would be very interesting if we paused for a moment and thought about where we did not do well. As I tell people, especially young people, I like to remember the exams I did not pass. And there are some I did, Most people obviously understand I passed the UPSC. But I can tell you, I sat for the IIT entrance exam and I didn't pass. And in fact, I had I must share with you a very interesting experience recently. I was at an event where someone went to the great trouble of getting my school report. They actually got my school report, got a copy of it, had a nice, presentable version of it. And they were under the mistaken impression that it would be a good report. So here I am, and they introduce me and they say, we have your school report. And then they flip page 1. And, it wasn't that great. They saved me the embarrassment. So they read the final teacher's remark saying the boy has great potential if he works a little bit harder. I mean, that's what the teachers say when you don't do that well. So I remember that, and I remind, everybody around me saying, look, all of us somewhere, I'm sure there were some people who were so talented very early on that anything they did, anything they touched turned out to be wonderful. But I think for the vast majority of us, There were some things which worked, some things which didn't. There were days you did well, there were days you didn't. There were some things you passed, there were some which you didn't. And I think that's important to remember in life, because that is very much, I think, part of that attitude towards life, that sense that, you should not be down, you should not feel sort of bad at any setback, and you should be optimistic about the continuous self-improvement which all of us practice and certainly aspire to. Now, as an external affairs minister, and as you can see, an extreme case of stress, there were some takeaways I had. I read the book, I absorbed the book, and I asked myself, okay, so what is it in my own sphere, in my own domain I experienced, and try to put it down in a Shiv Khera-esque way to communicate to people. And for me, when I look at my own particular responsibility now, but even earlier as a diplomat, I have over a period of time tried to aspire to the 3 C's of success. One, of course, is contact. The more people you know, the greater your reach. The second C is chemistry, which is that if you get along with people, they are more likely to do things for you than if you don't. And the third is credibility, that if you are known to be good on your word, when you say things, when you make promises, when you tell people what can be done or what cannot be done, people take you seriously. A lot of people would do things, they would do things first if you know them. 2, they will certainly do things if they like you, therefore the chemistry. But most of all, they are likely to respond to you if they believe you are straight, you are upfront, what you say is what you get. I think that is a very, very crucial attribute, certainly in the world of diplomacy. My second takeaway, and there were elements of it in the book, I would call it today, because we are in the era of art of the deal, I would call it the art of parachuting, which is you drop into a place and get to know as quickly as you can what it is all about. And that's what most, certainly in diplomacy, in the foreign service, as a foreign minister, that's what a lot of us do. You have, a little time to get your bearings, understand where you have landed, try to learn what everybody around you is about. And you can say in a way it's a kind of Atmanirbharta, that you are carrying all those skills which you get by reading Shiv Khera, and then you drop down in a place and you apply those skills as quickly as you can. The third is crucial, central to this, which is stress. And in fact, he says, whatever you do, avoid chronic stress. Now, avoiding chronic stress and being a minister don't go together. So that's the reality of the situation. So what do you do? And that's what we were talking as we walked into this building. And I said, look,